This is a story of a turn-of-the-century novelist, Edith Wharton, in her home that she lovingly and carefully designed, the Mount Estates, the Victorian-style mansion in Lenox, Massachusetts. This property to this day is reported to be a paranormal hotspot. With first-hand accounts and insights from my expert guest, Stephanie, we will be exploring Edith's life and why so many spirits seem to frequent the property at the Mount. I'm Chris.
I'm Cathy.
I'm Sean.
And this is Waiter After Dark. Today, we're going to be talking about the haunting at the Mount Estate Mansions. And we have a special guest who's had personal experiences that could create some insight into what we're talking about because she's actually a medium. Stephanie, welcome to the podcast. Good to have you.
Thank you for having me, guys.
So excited. This dog is high. Well, Steph, we'd love to know a little bit about you. Like Chris said, medium. Tell us about that.
So I am a practicing medium, both me and my mom. I actually started doing this through her. I started practicing in 2016. She practiced a little bit longer than I did. From a young age, she started from around 11, 12. Started sense of presences. And then it wasn't until I think she was 16, the dreams started happening. So she started getting visitations. And they were very vivid and very detailed, also a little bit graphic. Didn't know really what to do with it until years later. So years later, she joined a spiritualist church in Springfield, Mass. And through there, she was able to connect with some people who were practicing mediumship circles. So she, started sitting down and learning techniques on how to connect and all that stuff. So then I was at the time living in Eastern Mass. I just got out of college and I ended up moving back because, the Boston area is so freaking expensive.
Yeah.
So then I said, I'm going to join you too because I'm really curious. And I've had an interest in the paranormal my whole life. I think it was 14. I went on my first ghost tour, which was in Salem, Mass. And I was I think from then on, it was my dream job.
So cool. I mean, we got to dig in.
Yeah.
So I assume everyone probably has their own experiences or how mediumship works for them. What does it look like for you?
So for me, earlier on, I started sensing stuff. My mom has always told me, she's when you were a kid, you just anxiety all the time. I was very sensitive to just being around people. So if I had a lot of people coming at me, it was just high energy. When I first started doing this, it was on a much more visual basis. I think over time as I practiced it, started getting more feelings. I could hear more stuff, but it's very visual based. And for my mom, it's more, she does more factual stuff. For me, it's more on the emotional side. I tell people all the time that the reason why I do this, the reason why my mom does this, it's for healing purposes. So it's not to be negative. I've heard people say they've gone to mediums or psychics and say you have all this bad energy around you. That's not what this is for. It's for just knowing that your loved ones on your side, that they're safe, they're looking out for you. I do tell people we get what we need, not what we want. So it's whoever comes in, whatever they give me, I will give to you. I don't control what comes through or who comes through. At times it can get emotional. I mean, it depends on who I'm reading. It depends on who, what's going on in their life or what's happened in their past or connections with people on the other side. I just do this for positive. I don't like when people say oh, it's you're going to predict when I'm going to die and all that stuff. I'm no, that's not what I do.
Yeah. It's a nice message. I mean, it sounds like you take this ability that you have and you're using it to try to help people heal or find closure with anything that they may be struggling with after people have passed.
Was there a moment that you knew hey, this is something that's real that I need to explore more?
Yes. When I first started going to my spiritual circle, it was small little things here and there, but I wasn't getting that aha moment right away.
Mm-hmm.
So one night, probably either late 2016, maybe early 2017, I was at circle and we were going around doing our readings and it came my turn. They say to you, when you start practicing this, it's just give what you get. Don't think about it. Just you get something right away, you give it. So immediately I had this vision of being in a car and it was raining. And one of the things that stood out I was just smelling fast food grease, like just wicked fast food grease. Like it just smelled. And then I had a picture of the pool I had when I was a kid growing up. And I had an image of a motel room. So I'm saying all this stuff, saying it out loud, but I don't know what this means. I don't know, like, why am I saying this? But my mom, who's sitting next to me, she goes like, keep going, keep going. So I'm just saying this stuff. And then all of a sudden I had a female come in and she slammed the door to the motel room in my face.
Oh, wow.
And Carol, she was our head medium, she's pushing me to like keep going forward. As she's pushing me, this female was telling me, no, like, we're done. Like, this is it. We're done.
Ooh.
And I'm saying, I'm like, Carol, I'm like, I can't go forward anymore. She's not letting me, she's not showing me anything. So I'm like, that's all I'm getting. Finished my thing. And my mom says to me, I know exactly what that was. And I was like, what is it? She had a friend sadly murdered. She had met this guy in a rehab center and he ended up kidnapping her, took her to a motel somewhere in West Springfield, tied her up and basically killed her.
That's what you were seeing.
And that was the first real experience you had? That's intense.
That was like, yeah. So I'm like, well, what does the pool mean? Because I'm seeing the pool that we had when we were kids. And she goes, she was the one that came over to my house and went swimming all the time. That's why the pool means a lot. And she goes, the fact that you're smelling the fast food grease, she goes, that answered a question that I had because I didn't know which motel it was that he took her to. She goes, I know which one. It was the one near McDonald's in West Springfield. That was the one.
Yeah, you can smell like the French fries in the air.
Especially when it's hot out, like that's what it was. It was crazy. He let her call her mom to say goodbye. Like she had kids. It was just like, it was crazy. Like I'm saying all this stuff, like not knowing it. And then my mom was like sitting next to me. And my mom was actually saying when Carol was pushing me to, push forward, my mom in her head was saying like, she goes, don't show anything. Don't show her anything. Like, no, that's it. Like, that's all you're showing her. So I went home and then my mom like calls me and she goes, I just realized today's her birthday.
I got goosebumps. I don't know if that's a fan or... wow. Yeah, that's a lot too.
That was the big one. I'm like, okay, like I can do this.
So how long did it take for you to like kind of hone in on this? I imagine it's a skill, right? Like the more you work on it and like it happens, the better you get at it.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
How long did that take? Or are you still working on it? Is it a craft for life to refine?
We're still learning. You never stop learning. So, I mean, like I'm better than I was before, but like, my mom and I still like will discover like new stuff about like how we communicate with spirit and, sometimes dealing with difficult spirits, then also dealing with people. I definitely say it's harder to read people who are closed-minded. I had read a girl one time, came in for a reading, and like everything I was giving her, she just was like shooting down. And at the end of the reading, she said to me, she goes, I didn't want to do this. A friend pressured me into it. So I tell people, if you're going to come in for a reading, just make sure that you like really want to do this. This is for you, not for anybody else.
Hey, you guys want to dig into the story?
Let's do it.
I'm excited.
Ready to go.
Yep.
So I'm really excited to have a medium who's also been to this property and has had personal experiences as we get into the story. So today we're digging into the hauntings at the Mount Estate Mansion. To understand these hauntings, first we have to understand the builder and designer of the Mount Estates, novelist Edith Wharton. Edith was born in 1862 into a prominent family from New York. Think dinner parties with the Rockefellers and Carnegies and countless maids and butlers running around.
So she rich, right?
Yeah, she got money.
All right.
Raised to be graceful in high society and to marry well from early childhood. To say it was a strict upbringing is an understatement. Today, we would probably call it emotional abuse. All depictions of her relationship with her parents I found described her parents as, well, terrible people. Yeah, they were overbearing, micromanaging, quick to criticize and put her down. For example, Edith was banned from reading fictional books or novels as a child and was restricted to the books her father approved of.
How come?
Because it was the wrong vibe for the times. So, despite her father's strict controls over her approved reading list, Edith was a prolific reader. In Edith's autobiography called The Life and I, she wrote, as a child, my books were my closest friends, and I had a painful longing for a friend to speak to me, as my books did. That just kills me, and I hate her parents a little.
Can you imagine, though, being like, what made you a bad kid? You're like, I smuggled books and read them. It was nonfiction.
I was thinking nonfiction.
Fairy tales.
So she clearly had an affinity for the limited reading she was allowed to do, and this sparked a love of the written word. Now, interestingly, when she was 10 years old, she came down with pneumonia and she had a very high fever and she was bedridden for weeks. She wrote later of this time, and I'm paraphrasing here, she was in and out of consciousness. She would enter a world of the spirits, and ghosts would communicate with her when she was in that state. She later asked her doctor about this experience because she didn't dare ask her dismissive and judgmental parents. And the doctor reported these were hallucinations brought on by the fever. I don't think she really believed this because she refused to sleep in that room again for the rest of her childhood. She also refused to have any books in her room when she slept that referred to ghosts or the supernatural in any way.
This scared the shit out of her.
Yeah, so this is an odd detail to keep in mind as we move forward in the story. And I'm hoping Stephanie can give us some insight into that because it sounds to me like this is a medium experience she had and it scared the shit out of her.
I did a history tour there last year. But yeah, I remember them saying like she wrote ghost stories, but she was like no go on the spirits. Like it did freak her out.
I think probably too, it sounds like she wasn't living in an environment where she could feel openly comfortable to talk about things like that. I wonder if you probably figure she's a little kid, she's scared, but then she's not allowed to talk about it. And then her imagination probably makes it worse in her mind than what it was. And then she kind of buries it.
Just the fact she asked her doctor instead of her parents tells you something about how she saw being supported in that house, right?
Oh, for sure. Stephanie, the first time you had your experience, was it scary?
I wouldn't call it scary. I was more like the visions and the images. And I just was like, I literally was sitting there the whole time. I'm like, I don't know what this means. But my mom knew what it meant.
Before you had your visions, were you aware of your mom's? You were aware of your mom's visions, correct? When you had them, you were probably more comfortable and open to it. Yeah. Right? I mean, I'm totally assuming here that
my mom's been very supportive of it. Actually, my grandmother was actually very open to this. My mom actually, through a reading, found out that my grandmother had gone to a psychiatrist at one point because she was getting stuff, but it freaked her out and she thought she was going crazy. So
she had nobody to kind of guide her through it. So she thought she was having some kind of a mental breakdown.
Yeah. And then my mom, with her stuff, it was coming in through dreams, but it was very graphic deaths she was seeing. So she would see something before it happened, and it was from people from all over the world. So I'm like, why am I getting these dreams and these graphic images of people dying? I don't even know who they are. I can't help them.
Yeah, and it's in a different language in a different country.
Yeah, and she's like, I don't know what to do with this. So
it's sort of like your grandmother probably experienced something similar to what Edith did, where she was in an environment that it was something talked about or known, or someone else had it. So as a little kid, I'm sure Edith was probably
to figure out what it meant. Yeah. Edith loved to read, but she also fell in love with the written word and had aspirations of becoming an author. It's interesting because she became a fictional novelist and fictional books were banned in her childhood. Maybe that was the ultimate act of defiance against her parents.
Good for her.
Yeah. She describes some of her fictional characters in the books as overbearing and hypercritical and controlling authority figures. She would later in autobiography credit her parents for the inspiration.
Some things don't need to be written.
Yeah. Some things just explain themselves.
So, she did not exactly have a loving, carefree childhood, to say the least. By age 16, her parents allowed her / forced Edith to start going to public events and dances, hoping she'd find a suitable husband. Her parents were quick to criticize her and her aspirations of becoming a writer, instead urging her to focus on finding a husband and give up on her foolish childhood hobbies, which is great because she became one of the most important writers in American history, so fuck them.
She kind of ended up giving them the big middle finger at the end. So.
Being hypercritical of Edith must be a family trait, because Edith was one of her own harshest critics. She now famously would write anonymous reviews of her own publications, completely trashing it. She was very hard on herself as a writer, and there might be countless pieces of important American literature that she did not publish and we will never see because she was so hard on herself.
She would publish reviews of her own work trashing herself?
Anonymously, yes.
What?
Yeah, just completely trashing her work. She was a bit of a tortured soul.
Do you think it was sort of like a reverse psychology? She's going to put bad things out there so that other people then turn around and be like, no, this is great. This is really good.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what her motivation was, but I do know that she had written some really awful reviews of her own work over the years, and it got published anonymously, and we didn't find out till much later it was her that did it. In her early 20s, she was able to get some articles published in travel magazines, and she wrote a screenplay, but the play actually never got made. So not much success early on as a writer. By the age of 23, she was fast approaching old maid status and not married yet. Her parents put even more pressure on her to find a husband.
23's old
23,
maid status.
I mean,
She's going to be an
pretty
old
much-
maid.
Yeah, she should be pushing out kids by now.
Past her prime.
23, which is crazy today, but I guess at the times, no, her parents are still dicks for the time. I can't defend that. So this is when she met Teddy Wharton. He was 16 years older than her. They dated briefly and then married and traveled for the first few years of their marriage. She continued to write during this time, but not really ever finding any success or traction. She later wrote in her biography, she was not happy in her marriage, but rather doing what was expected of her. So not exactly romantic love at first sight vibes here.
That's sad.
She also explored themes of sexual repression, unreturned feelings, and forbidden love in her fictional novels and short stories, maybe giving you some insight into her thoughts of her own marriage. Now, Teddy was diagnosed with manic depressive disorder, and he would experience long periods of not being able to get out of bed, lack of motivation, not being interested in life, and suicidal thoughts. With Teddy's depression, the couple decided to leave the busy pace of the city and bought 113 acres in Lenox, Massachusetts. They then started construction on their home, the Mount Estates. The design of the house was left up to Edith. She based the design of the house on the Belton House, a famous 17th century English country home in Lincolnshire, England. The house itself was almost 17,000 square feet and holds 42 rooms for two people. They never had any children, so...
What would you do with 42 room?
A house that big, she has servants. She's not dusting her own house.
So like the main house, the Mount's large stable was modeled on the Belton House as well. Its original purpose was to shelter the Whartons' horse and carriage, but in the next decade, it was transformed into a garage for Teddy's large collection of motorcycles and cars. The gardens, in Edith's own words, were an elegant series of outdoor rooms in harmony with the house and the surrounding landscape. And of course, when Edith was designing her home, the library and writing room received special attention. It's both decadent and comfortable. It has oversized chairs and a marble fireplace, somehow inviting you to sit and read or even write for a while. So she put a lot of time and effort into this place. Incredibly upscaled, well planned out, and based on Edith's travels and senses and preferences. So the Whartons lived at the estates for the next 10 years. A very interesting thing happened at this time. She started to crank out true masterpieces of American literature. In the next 10 years, she wrote and published 22 full novels, 87 short stories, and published numerous poems and magazine articles. These included The House of Mirth and The Age of Innocence, both bestsellers the year they were published. And she won a Pulitzer for Age of Innocence. So you might say she was a woman possessed. She went from not getting a couple articles to literally putting out 22 books in 10 years.
And at this point, she's at the Lenox property.
Yes.
So it's almost like being there.
It's like channeling something.
Yeah. It's like inspiration. Something is like pouring through her in a way almost.
You guys might be psychic because that's kind of where I'm going. So Edith's work explored social themes and relationships in high society, but she also started to write ghost stories at this time. She wrote about hauntings and possessions in the spirit world, as well as unresting souls that could not move on. She even wrote a guide on how to make ghosts appear, writing, "Ghosts, to make themselves manifest, require two conditions: adherence to a modern mind, silence, and continuity." To which I say I have absolutely no idea what that means. But it's an interesting shift in genre for the ever careful and proper Edith we've got to know so far in the story.
Okay, so they built the house. Do we know anything about the land that was there?
I do not.
Because I'm just like wondering, like, all of a sudden she's talking about like spirits and like helping them move on and helping them to be seen.
But she's also saw the spirits when she was younger.
When she was younger. So maybe they're attached to her. Maybe like, like not attached to her, but like trying to channel through her.
Maybe. I mean, we've got a professional here.
Yeah,
Stephanie.
I think spirits know when we're open. So like, I think they do attach themselves to us. Even if we don't realize we're open, at the time, feel like I had spirit attached to me at a young age. It was coming out as an anxiety. So at the time, I didn't know what this was. So until like years later, it's like, no, you're just very sensitive to energy, and they know that.
And that's kind of confirming the story so far, right? Because she had this experience when she was 10 years old. Oh, it was just a fever. And then all of a sudden, she's writing books on how to summon ghosts. It's almost like she left us clues through her writings.
You said that her husband suffered from some mental illness, right? So maybe when he was kind of unable to be present. Because of that, for the first time, she had a sense of control of her environment because she was the one that was in charge.
Well, either way, after a 10-year marriage that Edith described as well what was expected of her, Edith and Teddy decided to go in their own ways. Edith moved to France. And while she published new work on occasion, she never really put out the volume or quality of work she did in a short time when she lived at the Mount. She would go on to start and support many organizations that supported the poor in France and Europe, and she focused mostly on helping orphan children from World War I. Edith would later describe her time at the Mount as the only time in her life she truly felt happy. So this is the story of Edith, and I want to talk about the hauntings at the Mount next. But first, I want to review some facts so far in order to draw kind of a clearer picture about Edith and her work. So Edith, as we discussed, at 10 years old, had typhoid fever, and she reports at this time in her life visiting the spirit world and having ghosts come and visit and communicate with her, almost like a mediumship experience. Then, as a writer who had a few articles published but never having really had any success, she moved into the Mount and then writes some of the most important American literature in our history. Not only incredibly successful works, but writing 22 full novels and 87 short stories in a very short 10 years. After she left the Mount, for all intents and purposes, she didn't publish anything of note. While living at the Mount, she started to write about the supernatural and ghosts in the spirit realms, a sharp departure from her usual genre. While I cannot find anything in her writings where Edith proclaimed that she was a medium, I think she left us clues of her mediumship abilities throughout her writings. She wrote short stories, The Lady's Maid's Bell and The Eyes, which both explore fictional characters haunted by ghosts manifested by their past misdeeds and having to help the apparitions by confronting the misdeeds so the apparitions could move on into the afterlife.
So your theory is that she was actually a medium, and now she's writing these stories. So do you think the characters, the spirits in her stories were real life spirits that she was helping move on?
That is a fantastic question, and that's the one we're asking here today, right?
I still have a hard time telling people I'm a medium, so I can imagine being around at that time and no, you're being thrown in the freaking mental asylum,
Hearing her say and reflect on her life and be like, that was the happiest time of my life, all of a sudden makes me go, well, that's not someone in a bad mental
state. Bad place. That's feeling isolated and alone.
This is someone who's feeling good and channeling something beautiful maybe and having these interactions. This is where I go from all of a sudden skeptical. I don't know, man.
and then, excuse the pun, but the dead giveaway for me was her book on the guide on how to summon spirits. She's literally telling us in the book she knows how to summon spirits. So I could suggest she was in contact with an actual ghostwriter, if you will. I also believe her strict upbringing and her carefulness about her public image, she would not share this claim in her public life. However, the more I dug into the evidence, the more it looks like she might have been channeling ghosts in her time at the Mount. So the Mount continues to have paranormal activity after the Waltons moved out in 1922, and it continues to this day. So in 1942, the Mount became the Fox Hollow School for Girls, and quickly rumors and stories about the paranormal began. Word spread amongst the students of strange noises, footsteps, apparitions appearing and disappearing. An apparition of a man dressed in a tuxedo was reported several times near the side entrance of the building. Rumors that this could be Edith's extramarital affair, waiting for her for all eternity to come to the door, circulated amongst the children like wildfire.
What? What? We're talking about ghost sex? What do you mean? Extramarital affair? What's happening here?
So, you don't think ghosts get busy, Sean?
I don't think...
I've never had a sexual encounter with a ghost.
If you do... Okay, time out. If I did have a sexual encounter with a ghost, did I cheat on my girlfriend?
Yes.
But it's a ghost. Is it real? I don't know.
And you have to tell the story on the podcast because we're going viral at that point. These rumors circulated amongst the children, but also more quietly and conservatively by staff and teachers at the school as well. Now, interesting to me, the house, no longer under Edith's direction, became a home for girls, given Edith's work with orphans in Europe and her own difficulties and traumas during her childhood, almost like it manifested this way. So by the 1970s, the girls' home had shut down at the estates of the Mount, became the home for a theater group who performed Shakespeare. The paranormal occurrences continued or even escalated at this time. Cameras and recording equipment that worked perfectly off-site seen the malfunction on the property. Performers and staff reported feeling watched when they were alone in their bedrooms while staying at the Mount. Some actors and actresses refused to walk through the Great Hall alone after a report by their acting coach who said he was touched by an invisible hand when he was walking through the Great Hall. So interesting, right? So again, the next iteration of the house was a tribute to fellow writer and influence for Edith. Almost like Edith continued to have an influence in how the house manifested itself. One of the most unusual encounters took place in 1979. This is the story of Andrea Hearing. Andrea, who was an actress and voice teacher for the theater group, she reported she laid down to rest late one night on a mattress in Edith's otherwise empty library/writing room. She reports she awoke at 4 a.m. and sensed a presence in the room. She also noticed the room had become extremely cold. She opened her eyes to see 3 figures and furniture that included a desk and a chair appear in the empty room. A woman, who Andrea recognized as Edith, was talking. A man with mutton chops and a whiskered beard was sitting at a desk, writing and gesturing to Edith. Standing with his arms folded was another man, who Andrea recognized as Teddy. The 3 of them seemed to be completely engaged in conversation, as though they could hear each other. But Andrea could not hear anything they said. Andrea thought about leaving the room. As soon as that thought popped into her head, the 3 ghosts turned and stared at her, clearly acknowledging her presence. Then resumed the conversation as if she wasn't in the room. Andrea, at this point, quickly got up and left. Now in the hallway, summing up all her courage and curiosity, she returned back into the room a minute later to find it empty again and warm again. So a very interesting story there.
The one thing that is interesting to me is the fact that it's not just people or spirits that are appearing, the furniture appeared.
Yeah, like
that
sounded residual, but then the ghost clearly acknowledged her presence in the room. They all stared at her.
Yeah.
Which made it, it sounds like it was a mix of the two.
Yeah, there's definitely a mix in that house.
It just makes me think too, like if you remember back in the story from the Conjuring episode that I shared, Andrea would frequently see people inside of the dining room, literally sitting at the dining room table, and they'd be eating. And I've always thought back to that imagery of them doing that and her being like, the dining room table's there. And she's seeing ghosts sit at her table. Is the table part of the spiritual experience?
Well,
or
they say that like objects can have energy and spirits attached to it. So like if you have like an armoire and you bring that armoire into your house, that's from, we'll say, the mount. Right.
Yeah.
And that has energy and that has a spirit attached to it. And then you bring it into your house. You're now bringing that in. So whatever is interacting with that, maybe you would be seeing.
My great Pepe built this house and it's been in our family since. So I get the family in here like all the freaking time. My mom and dad at the time building a house in Belchertown, and they were staying here. Pepe was still alive. And my mom was actually sitting in this room using it as her office. And she had told me, she goes, I could not walk through the front living room because it felt like I was walking through a freaking party. Not bad energy, but it just felt like it's a lot of energy. It was too much. Like I couldn't walk through it. I had time to sage the room because it was so crowded.
Based on what you're talking about. So in the house that we currently live in, there's been times where I've been in our bedroom and it's almost like the room gets heavy and our dog will sort of react and will kind of do this weird cower down type thing where he'll put his head down, his tail's between his legs, and he's kind of looking over towards the bathroom. I will literally...
Is that why I have to sleep on that side?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
I'm just checking.
But I will literally turn around and I will say out loud, and it sounds kind of absurd, but I will turn around and I will say, if you are here, you can stay here, but this is my house, but you can't bother me. You can't scare me. You can't scare my dog. You can't scare people, because if they do, I'm going to have to find a way for them to not stay here, and they're going to have to move on, and they're going to have to go someplace else. I don't know if I'm actually talking to a spirit, or if it's me doing that out loud makes my mind feel better. But very shortly after, within seconds, the room kind of just... that heavy feeling goes away. The dog chills out. But it's even happened where I'll be like in my bathroom brushing my teeth. So you talking about your grandmother walking through the room sort of reminded me of that.
Today, the house offers tours. It holds venues and weddings. And the reports of hauntings continue to circulate. Strange noises, rustling, thuds, footsteps have been heard by visitors and staff alike all over the property. Reports of young girls laughing when there's nobody else in the house have been heard, accredited to the residents of the Fox Hollow School. An apparition of a hostile, angry man dressed in a black coat have been seen roaming around the house's many bedrooms. There have been reports of him holding people down in the bed as they sleep in a terrifying and violent manner, and then just disappearing. So that part fucked me up. There has been apparitions accredited to Teddy Walton. He's been claimed to be seen wandering around the grounds and on the property. He's been seen in and around the carriage house as well as all over the house. And people report a very heavy, dark presence when they see his apparition. The ghost of Edith herself has been seen walking back and forth on the terrace late at night, seemingly deep in thought and unaware people are watching her. And then the last story of asking Stephanie to share with us. Stephanie, can you walk us through your experiences there and what you noticed?
Well, I'm going to start by saying I went on 2 ghost tours at the Mount. First one was in July of 2022. This was more of a tame experience. When you go on a tour, they first start you off carriage house. After that, you go to the pet cemetery. Edith Wharton's dogs are buried on the property, and it's up on a hill a little bit. The Mount is actually gorgeous. And then after the pet cemetery, you go to the main house. Then they take you on this ground floor. Then there's the second floor, and then there's like the top floor with the bedrooms. So my first tour I went on, we started off in the carriage house and we got little taps here and there, nothing crazy. And then we moved on to the pet cemetery. I didn't feel anything there. I don't feel like ghosts hang out in the cemetery. They're not there waiting for us. They're off, where the action is. They're off where everyone is. So we went into the house. My first big feeling was actually Teddy's office. We were in that office and I just started getting wicked depression vibes. I was just feeling really down and just not great. Just didn't want to be in the room. Then we moved on to the rest of the tour, went up to the second floor, towards some of the rooms up there. And then at the end, we were at the top of the stairs and our tour guide said, we're just going to stop. We're not going to talk and we're just going to listen to the house. So everyone just was just paused. It was quiet. And as we're doing this, I all of a sudden felt a dog on my ankle, just chilling up on my ankle. This dog would not leave. And I was like, holy crap. So at the end of the tour, we went back downstairs in our ghost tour. He's like, did anybody feel anything at all? Did anybody hear any experiences? And my husband, John, he is with me. He's like, just for me for say something.
Say something.
And I was freaking out because I had just opened up the month before to doing readings for people. I just started my site. So I was still I don't know if I can tell people I do this. Was freaked out. So I didn't end up saying anything. And then on the drive home, I was like, oh crap, I should have said something. So our second tour was actually last August 2024. We did a Berkshire trip because I freaking love the Berkshires. It's gorgeous out there. And we were staying in an Airbnb in Great Barrington. So I should note, we stayed in this Airbnb all week. I didn't feel anything. It was our last stay in the Berkshires and we did the ghost tour. We started the ghost tour in the carriage house. The only difference was that we were told that they got permission to take tours up on the second floor of the carriage house. We started off in the first floor. I got tapped and staying kind of in the back of the group and I was getting tapped and John had said to me, he's like, I thought I heard someone talking behind us. I'm like, oh, I said, well, someone's here. So then we go outside and we go up to the second floor. There's a fire escape. We walked up and we walk into the second floor and there's this big room. Our tour guides are talking about stuff that they saw and all their stories. And as they're talking, I am just getting hit with this wicked anxious feeling to the point where our tour guide stopped and said, are you okay to me? I didn't want to draw attention to myself. So I was like, no, I'm fine. So they kept going. They open up the door that's staying behind them and this door leads to this long hallway with all these rooms off of it. So we start walking down. Immediately as I enter the hallway, I am just hit with stomach pains. I wanted to throw up. So I'm trying to walk down this hall. I'm trying to follow our tour guide into one of the rooms they was talking. I'm in there for a little bit and I was like, nope, I need to get the fuck out of here. So I ran to John and I'm like, I need to get out now. I'm going to throw up. We had another tour guide behind us and I said, are we going out the same way? And she goes, no, we're going out the side staircase. I go out the door, go up the staircase. I'm standing on the top of it and I just start dry heaving. I'm like, holy crap. And John's like, he's like, are you okay? I'm like, no. I'm like, fuck it. I just ran down the stairs, went out the door. And as soon as I get out the door, I'm putting the white light around, putting up the barrier and the stomach pain stopped. So we continued on, went to the main house. I felt the dogs again. The dogs, I swear, they rain on the second floor because they're running up and down the second floor like crazy. Still getting the depression vibes in Teddy's room. That hadn't changed. I said to John, I said, okay, I need to say something this time because like that was like really intense. That was too much. So I said something to our tour guides afterwards, and they were like, oh my God, like it's crazy. Like they've had other like psychics and people have had experiences, like some crazy experiences up there. So that was nuts. So we probably left around 11 o'clock. So drive back to our Airbnb. It was our last night. Get home, probably get to bed around like midnight. Fall asleep around 2:30 a.m. I am woken up. I sit up in the bed and I realize I'm hearing, clear as day, I'm hearing somebody whispering at the bottom of the stairs. To the point I was not thinking spirit. I was thinking somebody broke into the house.
Yeah.
Like I thought someone was downstairs breaking into the house or someone came in. I was like, oh my God. And I'm sitting there trying to process it. Am I hearing this? And I'm like, nope, I'm hearing this. So I'm like, woke John up. I'm like, John,
Get the fuck up.
God.
I would be doing the same thing.
That's exactly what you do.
Yeah, I'm like, that's
Yeah.
I heard something.
Oh my God. So I woke him up and he's like, what? I'm like, there's someone at the bottom of the stairs or whispering someone broke into the house. So he goes fucking flying out of the bed. He's running down the stairs about ready to beat a motherfucker. And I'm like running behind him. We get downstairs. It's like this small house. It's like there's like 2 rooms upstairs. So we get downstairs. We flip on all the lights. We're looking around. There's no one downstairs. We start checking all the doors, all the windows for signs of break-in. No signs. We look outside to see if any of the sensor lights were on outside. No, pitch black. And I just want to be clear, I was in this house all week, didn't feel anything. So John says to me, he's like, were you dreaming? I'm like, babe, I swear to God. I'm like, I freaking heard whispering. There was someone downstairs. He's like, well, Dick, there's no one here. And then I was like, oh shit, I think something followed us back.
Were you able to understand what they were saying?
Couldn't hear words, but like
Just that something was there, someone was there.
Do you know who it was?
I was not going to read this because it was someone that was following me home. I was like, no. I'm like, I don't.
Is that like a sign of like it's a negative energy or spirit?
The fact that they were making me sick, I was like, I was not going to go there. I got pissed. So I stood at the top of the stairs and screamed, get out, back to where you came from. Like, you're not doing this. You're not attaching yourself to me. You need to go back to where you came from. So that scared the crap out of me. So needless to say, I didn't sleep the rest of the night. John freaking conked out.
At least he ran down the stairs. I mean,
he played his role. He played his role.
I mean, that's what he needed to do.
Yeah.
I laid there in bed the whole night, like the rest of the night. I could not fall asleep. So finally at 7 a.m., my mom calls me and I told her what happened. I told her the whole story, and she's like, you were too open. Like, oh my God, you need to shut yourself down. I'm like, I'm sorry. I was not expecting like that because, that was her second time there. Like, I wasn't, the first time it was nothing crazy. I mean, but that was insane. And she's like, you need to stage the house now and all this stuff. I'm like, Mom, I'm going to be out by 10:30.
This is an Airbnb. I don't own this bit.
I'm running on 2.5 hours of sleep. I'm like, I can't. I think I found like dry sage in the cabinet somewhere. I'm like,
I don't think that's a clause in the Airbnb contract as you can't leave ghosts. So I think you're good.
Steph, can I ask a question? So you walked into a room and you said you felt like the depression of the room. What do you think that is? Is that like a spirit like attaching themselves to you? Is that like the spirit is just in the room and it's making its feelings be felt by other people? What do you think's happening when you feel that?
Well, Sean, remember Teddy had been diagnosed with manic depression.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm wondering.
Like the interesting point for me is it's like, is Teddy attaching himself to Steph, or is Teddy just in the room, and because he's in the room, he wants other people to feel what he's felt and to know he's there, so he makes them feel depressed.
Well, sort of like his energy is sort of staying there. It's sort of
is it like projection or injection?
Yeah.
What is this?
So that's why I said like I feel like there's both like the residual energy and spirit there. So like I feel like his office, I feel like that is residual energy. I feel like that room just like soaked up so much of his like depression because he spent most of his time in there. What happened up in the carriage house on the second floor, like that was obviously spirit. Like, oh my God, like that was just like someone attaching to me.
Do we know what happened in the carriage house?
They believe a girl hung herself up in the rafters.
Oh, jeez.
I do highly recommend doing a ghost tour because they do such a great job.
I'm always down for a ghost tour.
All the tour guides had share, they've all had experiences. So one of the tour guides, he actually told me a story. He was on the second floor. I think it was they were closing down for the night after one of the tours, and all of a sudden they had heard the sound of the paws on the floor.
From one of the dogs.
Yeah.
From one of the dogs. And they turned around and he said he saw one of the dogs clear as day. That's what I say. The dogs, that's their spot, their second floor. They're running up and down that hallway.
You don't think it was the man in the hooded cloak that followed you home, do you? Because he sounds terrifying. Teddy's energy is just down and depressed, and you could feel that when you walked into his office.
Yeah.
But this sounded like a more scary, nefarious.
Yeah.
I didn't obviously experience it. This was your experience, and it made you feel like it was something negative. But I also wonder too, if someone was sick, right? And when they passed and they were sick, and say that was one of their symptoms, was feeling nauseous and feeling heavy and weighed down, could that spirit project that onto you because that's what they were feeling in their last days?
That's possible. They think the girl that hung herself was pregnant.
Pregnant?
Yep.
Maybe from the Fox Hollow School.
Oh. Yeah, I'm wondering. I swear, I do recommend taking. They're so well put together, and it's one of the rare ghost tours I feel you can actually be in the space, because a lot of the ghost tours I've been on a number of ghost tours. It's you're walking in the street just outside the places. This one you get to be in the space and really kind of pick up on the energy. So yeah, and they do an awesome job. They really do. So, and the mountain itself, it is gorgeous. The grounds are gorgeous, and they do a lot of cool events and throughout the spring, summer, and fall, and the early winter.
So is the Mountain Estate a paranormal hotspot? Do restless souls search the property for salvation and to find closure? Could Edith have been a medium who conferred with the spirit world to author some of her most famous works? If you believe, the answer seems clear. And if you don't believe, the answer also seems clear. All I can say for sure is I want to take a road trip to the Berkshires and experience the Mountain Estates for myself. And I'm hoping you guys will come with me.
Doing this episode on the Lennox and on Edith, what is your key takeaway? Do you think this place is haunted? I mean, Steph is here sharing these true experiences that she's felt. What is your thoughts?
I got to be honest. I believe Edith was a medium. And I think she was channeling ghosts at her time at the Mount. And I think that energy still is there today.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we heard about from Stephanie today. And I also believe that Teddy being depressed, her feeling that energy, and then having that confirmed by other people, they've seen his ghost and they've felt that really heavy feeling, that depressed feeling, really leads credence to the reports.
Chris, thank you so much for sharing this story here today. We definitely appreciate it. And Stephanie, thank you so much for joining us and bringing some color and bringing all your experiences. Before we do a complete wrap, we want to roll out the red carpet for you. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Where can people find you? If they want to get a reading, where can they go?
Yes. So my site is MediumshipWithStephanie.com. You just go on, you sign up with me, and it's all done through Zoom. I'll send you the Zoom link, and then we just do our reading together. Also, if you're in the Western Massachusetts area, I also do in-person readings in Northampton, Massachusetts. It's a shop called In Spirit Crystals. It's located at 219 Main Street in Northampton, Mass. You can visit their site, inspiritcrystals.com, to schedule a reading. Walk-ins are also welcome. It's a really cool shop. They have lots of cool also stuff. They also do have other readers like tarot cards and psychic. I believe right now I'm the only medium there. But yeah, everyone there's super down to earth, and Northampton's just an awesome place. It's just so chill. I love it.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. We'll throw them in the show notes. And do you have any socials you want people to reach you out potentially, Stephanie?
Yep, I'm on Facebook and Instagram, Mediumship with Stephanie. My name's Stephanie Jacquier.
All right. Well, gang, we hope you enjoyed this episode as much as we did here today. As always, if you are looking to interact with us or talk with us or other listeners who are interested in this podcast just like you, we are out there building some communities. So you can visit us over on Facebook, Reddit, or Instagram. That is at Weirder After Dark. And on all those sites, Chris will be going ahead and dropping some information about his episode today on Edith and the Lennox and the Mount. So be sure to look at that. And as always, we are always on the lookout for your stories. Have you walked into a room and then all of a sudden ghost objects appear, like a table? Or do you fear, ghost dogs like clawing at your ankles. I don't know if you do. We want to hear those stories. And you can go ahead and send them to thegang@weirderafterdark.com and we will share them on an upcoming episode. As always, if you are liking this shit, no. If you are absolutely loving this shit, the best thing that you can do for us is go ahead and share this with a friend. And wherever you're listening, whether that is Spotify or Apple Podcast, go ahead, leave us a 5-star review. If you think we are deserving of it and drop in there a comment, it would mean the absolute world. And don't forget, it always gets a little weirder after dark.
Bye.
Thank you, guys.